Humanity stood on the edge of a new era. After centuries of war, strife, and survival, Earth had entered a golden age. Advances in technology had allowed humanity to reach beyond the confines of their home planet, spreading across distant stars. Colonies had been established on Mars, Europa, and beyond, and Earth's influence stretched into the far reaches of space. For the first time in history, the human race looked up at the night sky with more than just awe. They looked up with ambition. On the surface, life seemed perfect. Cities on Earth were thriving, powered by clean energy sources, and poverty had been drastically reduced. The colonies were built on the principles of unity and progress. Humanity had conquered the mysteries of the cosmos, unlocking the secrets of advanced propulsion, energy shields, and even artificial intelligence. Space travel had become routine. For the first time, humans felt like they were masters of their fate, ready to embrace their place in the stars. But that sense of security was about to be shattered. High above Earth, in orbit, the first signs of danger appeared. It was subtle at first, a strange series of signals, faint but persistent, coming from deep space. At first, humanity's brightest minds dismissed it as background noise or an unexplained cosmic event. But soon, the signals intensified, growing stronger and more coherent. Then, one day, a massive fleet of ships appeared in the skies. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Their surfaces gleamed with an otherworldly sheen, shifting colors and materials that seemed to bend light. The fleet was vast. Dozens of colossal ships, each the size of a city, descending from the dark expanse of space. This was not a peaceful exploration mission. It was an invasion. The aliens did not attempt communication through conventional channels at first. Instead, their ships loomed in silence, casting a shadow over Earth. The very presence of these ships in the atmosphere seemed to suffocate the air. The government scrambled to organize a response, but the threat was too overwhelming, too sudden. This was no mere encounter, it was an ultimatum. The message came through loud and clear, not as words, but as a heavy presence that filled the minds of all who heard it. We are the Velker. Your civilization is insignificant. You will submit to us, or you will be wiped from the stars. The words reverberated across every communication channel, leaving humanity paralyzed. The Velker had arrived. Panic spread across the planet as the realization set in. The human race had encountered their first true alien power. These were no explorers seeking peaceful diplomacy. They were conquerors, cold and calculating. Their technology far outmatched humanity's. Their weapons, unseen and mysterious, could wipe out cities in an instant. The Velker offered no explanations, no negotiation. Only submission or destruction. Captain Lena Harper, a seasoned veteran and leader of Earth's military forces, was one of the first to respond. Standing before a council of leaders, her face hardened by years of experience, she addressed the gathering with a simple, defiant statement: "We will not bow." With those words, humanity's fate was sealed. The Velker would not be allowed to dictate the future. But even as Harper spoke, doubts lingered in the back of her mind. Was humanity truly ready for what was about to come? The storm was brewing, and the first thunderclap of war was about to shake the very foundations of human civilization. The war began swiftly. Within hours of the Velker's ultimatum, their assault began in full force. The first strike came as a devastating surprise. The Velker's ships unleashed a barrage of energy beams from orbit, targeting the most important military and strategic centers on Earth's colonies. Cities and outposts that had stood for generations were reduced to rubble. The colonies on Mars and Europa, once symbols of humanity's ambition, were obliterated with a cold precision that left no room for retaliation. On Earth, panic spread like wildfire. The cities that had once been bustling hubs of prosperity and innovation were now under the looming shadow of an alien invasion. In a matter of hours, Earth's defenses were overwhelmed. Humanity's military might, though impressive, was no match for the sheer scale and power of the Velkor fleet. The advanced technology that had made humanity a rising star in the galaxy suddenly seemed primitive against the Velkers' weapons. In the early days of the invasion, the global response was fragmented. Nations scrambled to mobilize forces, but the Velkers' dominance in the skies rendered any conventional counterattack meaningless. For the first time in history, humans realized the terrifying truth. They were outmatched. Among the chaos, there was one place that remained a symbol of resistance, a hidden command center located deep in the mountains of Colorado. Captain Lena Harper, along with her crew of loyal soldiers and scientists, made her way to the facility. It had been designed as a last-ditch sanctuary, a place where humanity could regroup in the event of an existential threat. But the world outside was burning, and the safe haven felt more like a tomb than a sanctuary. "We won't go down without a fight," Harper said, her voice steady despite the weight of the world on her shoulders. Inside the command center, military leaders and strategists worked frantically, trying to find any way to counter the overwhelming force of the Velkor. But there was little hope. The Velkers' technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their ships could cloak themselves from sensors, their weapons were capable of vaporizing entire fleets in a single shot, and their tactics were coldly efficient, designed to crush any resistance before it could take root. Yet even as the situation grew dire, something else stirred beneath the surface. Something humans had always had, something the Velkor could not comprehend. Determination. Captain Harper gathered her commanders, all of whom had lost families, friends, and comrades in the initial wave of destruction. "We may not have the weapons to match them," she said, "but we have something far stronger, our will to fight." She paused, looking around the room. "The Velkor may think they can break us, but they don't understand the one thing that has made humanity strong since the beginning, our refusal to give up." Her words lit a spark. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The Velkor had underestimated humanity, assuming that their technology and sheer power would make them invincible. They did not account for the human spirit, the will to survive, to adapt, to fight back. Harper and her team quickly began to strategize. The Velkor had made a grave mistake by underestimating the tenacity of the human race. They had expected humanity to cower under the threat of annihilation, to surrender without a fight. Instead, the first seeds of rebellion were planted. For now, humanity was on the back foot. But the Velkers' superiority had come at a cost. They had underestimated their enemy. The spark of resistance had been lit, and, as history would show, once that spark ignites, there's no telling how far it will spread. In the void of space, the Velkers' ships loomed, watching Earth with an air of superiority. They were about to learn a lesson they would never forget. Never underestimate the fury of a species backed into a corner. The days following the initial invasion were filled with defeat and despair. Across Earth's remaining colonies, humans fought tooth and nail just to survive. However, as the Velkor continued their relentless assault, something unexpected happened. Humanity began to adapt. Out of the rubble of destroyed cities and scattered fleets, new tactics, new ideas, and new alliances began to form. Captain Lena Harper, now a symbol of human resilience, refused to allow the human race to be extinguished without a fight. Despite the overwhelming technological superiority of the Velkor, Harper knew there had to be something humanity could use to its advantage. She spent countless hours studying the remnants of the Velkers' weapons and technology. It was then, during one of her most desperate searches, that she uncovered something truly remarkable, a relic buried beneath the surface of the recently destroyed colony on Europa. The artifact had been hidden away in an underground vault, its purpose and origins a mystery to even the most advanced human scientists. But Harper, ever the strategist, realized that this artifact held incredible potential. The object was a strange crystalline structure, pulsating with an energy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It seemed almost alive, responding to proximity, shifting in color and intensity. At first glance, it appeared to be a technological relic of a long-lost civilization, possibly even predating the Velkor. The discovery was nothing short of miraculous. Scientists, led by Dr. Samuel Voss, quickly began analyzing the artifact, and within days, they uncovered its secret. The crystalline structure, when connected to human technology, could enhance weapons, shields, and even power sources. It was as though the artifact unlocked a hidden layer of potential within humanity's own technological framework. It was a form of energy manipulation, one that even the Velcro had not mastered. Harper's eyes gleamed with determination as the realization hit her. This was the key to turning the war around. While the Velcro were busy consolidating their dominance over the galaxy, humanity began to make use of the artifact's power. Weapons that had once been obsolete were re-engineered to fire energy blasts capable of disabling Velcro shields. Ships that were once slow and vulnerable became faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with defense systems that could rival those of the Velcro. The new energy source could be harnessed to power entire fleets, giving humanity an edge in the battle for survival. With this newfound strength, humanity's resolve grew stronger. What had once been a hopeless resistance was now a growing force, a spark that began to spread across Earth and its remaining colonies. Every major city, every colony, and every military outpost now had one goal: fight back. In deep space, a fleet of human warships, augmented by the artifact's power, launched a series of surprise strikes on Velcro supply lines. Though still outnumbered, the human fleet was faster, more efficient, and, most importantly, had a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just defending. They were striking first, and each small victory was a blow to the Velcro's sense of invincibility. The Velcro, ever confident in their superiority, were taken aback. They had expected humans to fall into submission, crushed under the weight of their own weakness. What they didn't understand was the power of the human spirit and the ability to adapt and innovate when pushed to the brink. The Velcro were faced with a new reality. The underdog was no longer playing by the old rules. The tide of war had begun to shift, but the Velcro still held a terrifying advantage. The battle for the future of the human race was far from over. And in the heart of the human resistance, Captain Harper knew that the discovery of the artifact was just the beginning. The real fight was only just beginning, and humanity had only one choice: win or perish. The stars trembled as humanity, no longer the underdog, prepared to show the universe exactly what they were capable of. The Velcro never expected to see this side of humanity. Overconfident and accustomed to crushing weaker species, they believed their superior technology would ensure swift and decisive victory. But the humans, now emboldened by the artifact's power, began to strike back in ways that stunned even their most advanced enemies. Captain Lena Harper stood at the helm of the Ascendant, a warship now reinforced with the new energy sources discovered through the artifact. She gazed out the command deck's viewport at the looming Velcro fleet. The battle would be unlike anything humanity had faced before. This was a risk, a gamble, but one she knew had to be taken. The Ascendant was humanity's new flagship, and it was now equipped with the best technology the human race had to offer. The target was clear: a Velcro dreadnought, the Fury of Ashar, a colossal ship capable of wiping out entire fleets with its devastating weaponry. If humanity could destroy the Fury of Ashar, it would send a clear message to the Velcro: humanity was no longer helpless. The underdog had risen. Harper addressed her crew, a mix of veterans and eager young soldiers. The tension in the air was palpable, the weight of the mission heavy on everyone's shoulders. "This is it," she said, her voice steady but filled with intensity. "We either take them down today, or we risk everything. We fought hard for this moment, and we will not back down. Remember, they underestimate us. Let's show them why they're wrong." The Ascendant and its accompanying fleet of modified human warships moved silently into position, cloaked by the new energy shields. The plan was simple: get in close, disrupt the dreadnought's shields with the artifact's energy, and destroy it from the inside out. It was a bold move, requiring precision and speed. There would be no room for error. The battle began in a blur of flashing lights and thundering explosions. The Velcro, initially unaware of the human fleet's new capabilities, were caught off guard. For the first time in the war, humanity's ships struck fast, disabling key systems on the Velcor ships before they had time to retaliate. The Ascendant led the charge, weaving through enemy fire with astonishing agility, its energy shields absorbing blasts that would have destroyed any other ship. As they approached the Fury of Ashar, the human fleet released a barrage of enhanced energy missiles. The dreadnought's shields, once thought impenetrable, flickered and faltered under the relentless assault. The Velcor commanders scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The humans were already inside the shield perimeter, targeting the ship's critical systems. In a final, desperate move, Harper ordered her ship to fire the artifact-enhanced cannon directly at the heart of the dreadnought. The shot hit with a thunderous explosion, breaching the core and sending a shockwave through the Velcor fleet. The Fury of Ashar erupted in flames, its massive hull torn apart from the inside out. The shockwave sent smaller Velcor ships spiraling into oblivion, and the Velcor fleet, once so confident, faltered in its attack. The victory was hard-fought and costly, but it was undeniable. Humanity had just taken down a key part of the Velcor's war machine. The battle left scars on both sides. Several human ships were destroyed in the process, and many soldiers perished. But the psychological impact on the Velcor was immense. They had lost a flagship, their most formidable weapon, and the human resistance had dealt a blow they never saw coming. Captain Harper stood in the midst of the battlefield, her heart pounding, as the remnants of the Velcor fleet retreated. Her crew erupted into cheers, but Harper remained focused. There was no time for celebration. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. "Let this be the first of many victories," Harper said quietly to herself, staring at the fading remains of the Fury of Ashar. Humanity had just proven something crucial. When pushed to the edge, they would fight, and they would win. The tide of war was shifting, and the Velcor would never again underestimate the fury of the human spirit. The battle for the Fury of Ashar had been a game-changer, but the war was far from won. The Velcor, reeling from their loss, quickly regrouped and began to strengthen their forces. Despite this, humanity had tasted victory, and the spark of rebellion that had begun on Earth was now a blazing fire across the colonies. Captain Lena Harper stood before a holographic display in the Ascendant's command center, analyzing the wreckage of the Velcor dreadnought. It had been the first major blow to their empire, but the enemy was far from broken. If anything, the Velcor would come back harder and faster, and the human resistance had to be ready. "We've shaken them, but we need to hit them where it hurts," Harper said, her voice resolute. "We've got one chance to cripple their command structure before they regroup. If we strike now, we might be able to turn this entire war around." The plan was simple, yet audacious. The Velcor's command fleet, the heart of their military operations, was stationed in a remote sector of space. The location was heavily fortified, but with the technology gained from the artifact, humanity now had a fighting chance. The Ascendant would lead the assault, supported by a fleet of newly reinforced warships. Harper knew it wouldn't be easy. The Velcor had regrouped quickly after their loss, and their remaining fleet was more organized and vengeful than ever. The stakes had never been higher. Yet the courage of her crew and the memory of all the lives lost fueled her determination. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ensuring that humanity's future in the stars would not be determined by the will of invaders. With their strategy in place, humanity's fleet set course for the Velcor command sector, racing against time to catch the enemy off guard. The tension on board the Ascendant was thick, and the silence was broken only by the sound of officers at their posts, preparing for the biggest battle of their lives. Each crew member knew what was at stake, and they had one goal: strike hard and strike fast. As they approached the Velcor stronghold, the Ascendant and its fleet deployed their new energy shields, cloaking their presence in the cold void of space. The element of surprise was critical. With each passing moment, the human fleet edged closer to the Velcor's outer defenses. Then, as if on cue, all hell broke loose. Velcor warships, sleek and monstrous, emerged from the shadows, their weapons charging in preparation for a battle they thought would be easy. What they didn't anticipate was the lightning-fast maneuverability of the human ships, now empowered by the artifact's enhancements. The humans struck first, hitting key Velcor command ships with a barrage of energy blasts that bypassed their shields, disrupting their coordination. Captain Harper's voice rang out through the communication channels, commanding her fleet to press forward. Keep them on the defensive. Disable their weapons systems and disable their engines. We need them unable to retaliate. The battle was brutal. Velcor ships retaliated with ferocity, firing devastating energy beams that tore through human vessels. But the human fleet, newly equipped with enhanced shields and weapons, held their ground. For the first time, the Velcor were forced to retreat under the relentless pressure of humanity's fury. As Harper's ship got closer to the Velcor command center, the Ascendant unleashed its new experimental weapon, a high-powered energy cannon enhanced by the artifact. The blast tore through the heart of a Velcor command ship, and its colossal hull exploded into a fireball, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The Velcor were stunned, and the human forces, sensing weakness, launched a final offensive. Ship after ship fell as the human fleet tore through their ranks. It was chaos, but it was chaos on humanity's terms. With the Velcor command fleet in disarray, the remaining enemy ships turned and fled, their resolve shattered. Humanity had dealt a crushing blow to the Velcor, and their strength was no longer an unstoppable force. The tide had turned. Humanity had broken the Velcor's stranglehold on the galaxy. As the battle drew to a close, Captain Harper stood in the command center, surveying the aftermath. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. They had done it. The Velcor had underestimated them once again. And now, with their command fleet in ruins, humanity would press on, stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. The war was far from over, but the Velcor knew now that humanity would fight until the last breath. The fury of the human race was unleashed, and it would not be contained. The stars, once quiet and distant, now seemed to tremble in anticipation of the battles yet to come. The victory over the Velcor command fleet had ignited a wave of optimism within the human resistance. For the first time in the war, humanity was on the offensive, and the Velcor were no longer an invincible force. Yet, even in the face of this unexpected triumph, Captain Lena Harper knew the truth. The Velcor would not be defeated easily. The war had entered a new, deadlier phase. The Velcor's retreat from their command sector had been a blow to their morale, but it was far from the end of their war machine. Earth and its colonies, though bolstered by new technology and the will to fight, were still vulnerable. The Velcor had resources, ships and forces that outnumbered humanity's, and they would strike back with even greater fury. Harper's victory had been a setback for the Velcor, but it was a setback they would soon recover from. A week after the battle, the resistance forces gathered for a summit, a chance to rally their remaining fleets and plan their next move. The human warships, freshly repaired and upgraded with artifact-enhanced technology, filled the space around Earth's moon, where the meeting was to take place. The fleet had grown larger and stronger, but so had the stakes. The time for skirmishes was over. The Velcor were preparing for their final assault, a full-scale invasion meant to wipe out the resistance once and for all. At the heart of the command center, Captain Harper addressed the leaders of Earth's military forces, her voice steady but resolute. "This is it," she said, locking eyes with every officer in the room. "The Velcor are not backing down. We've got one chance to end this. One final fight to ensure humanity's future in the stars. We can't afford to fail." Her words struck deep into the hearts of the men and women around her. Their families, their homes, their very way of life hung in the balance. The loss of the Velcor command fleet had shaken the invaders, but the Velcor were not going to rest until humanity was eradicated. The plan was a desperate one, but it was humanity's best shot at ending the war. They would launch an all-out offensive against the Velcor's remaining strongholds, drawing them into a final confrontation. The Ascendant would lead the charge once more, and the battle would take place on a scale never seen before. If they succeeded, the Velcor would be destroyed. If they failed, the human race would be wiped out. The Resistance fleet, augmented by the power of the artifact and enhanced by newfound technology, set course for the Velcor homeworld. The journey would be perilous, and the forces they faced would be overwhelming. But there was no turning back. They had to fight. They had to win. As the ships hurtled toward their destination, the crew aboard the Ascendant prepared for the coming storm. The final assault would be nothing short of a miracle if they succeeded, but Captain Harper knew that humanity's spirit had been tested and forged in the fires of battle. They had already defied the odds more times than anyone could count. They had already proven that, no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity would never give up. Harper stood alone in her quarters, staring out at the vast expanse of space. She thought of her crew, of all the lives they had lost, and of the generations to come. Humanity's future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They would not go down without a fight. They would face their enemies head-on, and they would fight with everything they had. The last stand had arrived. The battle for the future of humanity would take place in the heart of Velcor space. The stakes were higher than ever before. It was all or nothing. "Prepare for battle," Captain Harper said, her voice low and determined. The Ascendant and its fleet moved toward the unknown, ready to face whatever the Velcor threw at them. The war was about to reach its breaking point, and humanity would not be found wanting. The final battle had arrived. The human fleet, now numbering in the hundreds of ships, moved in formation towards the heart of Velcor space. The stakes could not have been higher. This was the moment where humanity's survival would either be secured or lost forever. As Captain Lena Harper stood on the command deck of the Ascendant, she could feel the weight of it pressing down on her shoulders. Every decision, every command, every life would matter in the coming hours. The Velcor fleet, an intimidating force of monstrous dreadnoughts and advanced warships, awaited them, positioned around their heavily fortified homeworld. It was a trap, a perfect ambush designed to wipe out the human resistance once and for all. The Velcor were more than ready. Their forces were vast, their technology advanced, and their anger at humanity's defiance was palpable. "We're outnumbered," said Commander Ethan Rayner, one of Harper's most trusted officers, his voice grim. "But we have one thing they don't: our will to survive. The artifact's power will give us a chance, but it's a slim one." Captain Harper nodded, her gaze unwavering. "It's enough. We've beaten the odds before, and we'll do it again." The plan was risky, but it was the only hope they had. The human fleet would take the full force of the Velcor's attack, drawing them into a massive engagement to keep their focus on the resistance. Meanwhile, a small strike force led by the Ascendant would infiltrate the Velcor's defense grid and destroy their primary shield generators. Without the shields, the human fleet would have a window of opportunity to deliver the decisive blow. As the fleets drew closer, the tension became unbearable. Across the fleet, every crew member was at their station, their eyes fixed on the upcoming battle. For many, this would be the final fight of their lives. There was no retreat, no fallback, only victory or death. The first shots were fired as the Velcor warships opened fire. Massive energy blasts streaked through space, lighting up the black void with deadly force. The human ships responded, launching waves of energy missiles and intercepting the incoming fire with shields powered by the artifact. The battle was fierce, but the human fleet held its ground, holding back the Velcor's initial assault. Inside the Ascendant, Captain Harper's eyes remained locked on the holographic battlefield, calculating the next move. "Get us closer to their defense grid," she ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. "We need to disable their shields before they overwhelm us." The Ascendant surged forward, darting through the firestorm of enemy blasts. With every second, the human fleet's shield technology was tested to its limits. The artifact-enhanced energy shields absorbed blow after blow, but they were beginning to flicker under the strain. "We're taking heavy fire," Commander Rayner shouted from his station. "Shields are down to 20%. We won't last long at this rate." "We can't stop now," Harper replied, clenching her jaw. "Keep pushing forward. We need to hit their core." As they neared the Velker's shield generators, the human fleet's tactics became evident. They were using themselves as bait, drawing the enemy's full attention, allowing the strike team to infiltrate the heart of Velcor space. Finally, with a resounding blast, the Ascendant broke through the final line of defense. Captain Harper's heart raced as she issued the command to launch the final strike. "Fire everything we've got," she shouted. The Ascendant's weapon systems unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each strike aimed at the core of the Velker's shield generators. The air seemed to crackle with raw energy as the shield's powerful defenses began to crack under the onslaught. And then, with a deafening explosion, the shields collapsed. The human fleet, emboldened by this breakthrough, launched a final, all-out assault. With the Velker's protective barriers gone, they were exposed. Ships exploded in the wake of the human assault, and victory seemed within reach. But just as Harper began to feel the rush of triumph, a sudden, terrifying shift in the Velker's strategy emerged. From the heart of their fleet, a massive, newly activated weapon fired, a doomsday device capable of obliterating everything in its path. Time seemed to slow. The battle was far from over. The war was on the brink of extinction. "Brace for impact," Harper shouted. It was up to humanity now to survive the final storm. Would the humans survive this onslaught, or would they face annihilation in the face of overwhelming odds? The battle for humanity's future was reaching its climax, and only one side would be left standing. The countdown had begun. The Velker's doomsday weapon, a colossal energy cannon capable of eradicating entire fleets in an instant, hummed to life at the heart of their flagship. Its core glowed ominously, radiating raw destructive power. The human fleet had pierced through their defenses, crippled their shield generators, but now, the Velker had unleashed their final trump card. The weapon's energy beams began to charge, the entire Velcor armada preparing for the devastating strike that could obliterate the human fleet and extinguish their hope for good. Captain Lena Harper stood frozen for a brief moment, every instinct screaming that this would be their final stand. The tension was unbearable. The Ascendant had just broken through the heart of the Velcor defense, but the Velker had prepared this ultimate weapon as their last line of defense. The countdown to destruction seemed to echo in her mind, but she didn't have the luxury of fear. "Captain," Commander Rayner's voice cut through her thoughts. "We have to stop that weapon now, or we'll all be gone in seconds." Harper's eyes darted across the battle-hardened crew. There was no time to waste. The fate of humanity rested in their hands. The Ascendant had fought hard and survived through countless odds. They had come this far. There had to be a way to turn the tide. But it was now or never. "Fire the artifact-enhanced pulse cannons at that weapon's core," Harper ordered. "If we don't stop it now, we're finished." The crew jumped into action, moving with precision as the Ascendant repositioned itself, firing its enhanced weaponry toward the heart of the Velcor flagship. The cannon blast struck the massive structure, but the energy weapon's outer shielding absorbed most of the impact, and it still hummed ominously, on the brink of release. "We're not getting through," shouted Rayner, his voice tight with panic. "Their defenses are too strong." Harper clenched her fist. There had to be a way. There had to be. Then a thought flashed through her mind: the artifact. The energy field created by the artifact had proven to be able to disrupt Velcor technology, allowing them to bypass shields and penetrate their ships. Could it do the same to this weapon? "Rayner, we need to overload the artifact," Harper said, turning to her chief engineer, Lieutenant Shara Volkov. "It might be our only chance. We could link it directly to the Doomsday Cannon, overload their power systems, and cause a critical failure." Volkov's face went pale as the implications hit her. "That's insane, Captain. If it works, we could destroy the Velcor weapon. But if it fails, we'll be caught in the blast. Harper's gaze hardened. We don't have a choice. Do it. Volkov hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Understood. The crew scrambled to reroute the artifact's power to the necessary systems. Sweat poured down their faces as the pressure mounted. Every moment was precious. Each second of hesitation meant another step toward their destruction. The Ascendant moved closer to the Velcor flagship, its engines straining as they pushed forward, despite the barrage of incoming fire. The human fleet, despite its dwindling numbers, continued to fight valiantly, distracting the Velcor long enough for the final strike to be made. As the Ascendant neared the flagship's doomsday weapon, Volkov's voice rang out from the engineering bay. I've linked the artifact to the weapon. Initiating overload in 3, 2, 1. A surge of energy shot through the ship, and the Ascendant's hull vibrated violently as the artifact's power flooded through the Velcor weapon systems. The flagship's core began to tremble. Its energy level skyrocketed beyond safe limits. For a moment, it seemed as though time had frozen. The entire battlefield held its breath. Then, with a deafening roar, the Velcor doomsday weapon exploded in a brilliant burst of light. The shockwave rippled through space, sending the remaining Velcor ships scattering in all directions. The immense energy released in the blast tore through the Velcor flagship and its surrounding fleet, disintegrating them in an instant. Humanity's fleet, battered and bloodied, looked on in disbelief. The threat was over. Captain Harper closed her eyes for a moment, letting out a long, shaky breath. The battle was won, but it had come at an unimaginable cost. The Ascendant was heavily damaged, its hull riddled with scars from the final assault. Several of their warships had been lost, and too many lives had been sacrificed. Yet, the impossible had happened. The Velcor had been defeated. Their doomsday weapon was gone, their fleet shattered, and their empire brought to its knees. The war was over. As the remnants of the Velcor fleet retreated into the dark void of space, the human fleet slowly regrouped, a collective sigh of relief washing over them. The stars, once filled with the shadows of invaders, now seemed brighter. We did it, Raynor whispered, a smile breaking across his face. Harper stood silently, looking at the stars. There would be time for mourning, time for remembrance. But for now, humanity had won. They had survived, and they would rebuild. The final dawn had arrived, and with it, humanity's future had been secured in the stars.